In Japan, they're called kata. In Korea, they're called pumse. Can you imagine learning the choreography to a dance that could potentially help save your life one day? We're talking, of course, about forms. And by the end of today's video, you'll be familiar with the movements and the techniques for the first 3 basic forms in Tae Kwon Do. Hi, I'm Sensei Peter, and this is Everyday Judo. Forms, ultimately, are the practice of imaginary fighting, and a great way for you to get some exercise and practice your martial arts at home. In these imaginary fights, your opponents will be attacking you from predetermined positions with scripted attacks, allowing you to practice specific techniques and combinations while you work on your body's movement and balance. To be successful in each form, you'll need to know a variety of stances, turning and footwork, specific blocks, and counterattacks. Each new form will build on the techniques from the previous form. And these first 3 basic forms will cover many of the techniques in Tae Kwon Do up to the level of your senior green belt. The overall footwork and movements in each form is almost identical. Now, there are different techniques used in the combinations, but each form only has 2 different combinations. Combination A, which you'll use 6 times, and combination B, which you use twice, each time with a key up or a spirit yell at the end of it. And the position and the pattern of these combinations are the same across all 3 basic forms. And now, to help you understand a little bit better the footwork and the movement, I'd like to introduce Uki and his 8 imaginary opponents. Your imaginary opponents and their positional locations will be identical in the first 3 basic forms. Your first 2 opponents will attack from the left and the right, and you'll use combination A before turning up the middle and using combination B at your first key up. This will place you at the top of the middle, where 2 more opponents will attack again along the top axes, and you'll use combination A before turning back down the middle for your second combination B and your second key up. Finally, your last 2 opponents will again attack from the left and the right, and you will use combination A before finishing your form in the exact spot where you had started. Alright, let's break down the techniques for each form one by one, and then I'll demonstrate that form before moving on to the next one. In basic form number 1, you'll just need to know front stance. In front stance, you're going to drop your weight. From standing still, spread your feet about shoulder distance. 1 leg goes forward, 1 leg goes backwards. Your back leg is driving into the ground, with your heel definitely anchored. Your front knee is bent, and if you look over your knee, you should just see the tip of your front toe poking out. If you can imagine pushing against something, a wall or a tree, the harder you push, the more your back leg is going to drive into the ground. If you were to pick your heel up, you wouldn't be able to push as hard. So that heel definitely needs to be driving. Your body weight balanced and centered in each stance. Now, there are lots of ways to turn and to turn around in front stance, but in basic form number 1, we're going to be concentrating on 3 different turns. The first turn, you're going to drop your weight and step directly to the side. Now, beginners are going to be thinking about the side, and they're going to step out in that line. But since front stance is wide and long, as you stand on one imaginary line, you imagine a second imaginary line behind you, and you rotate onto that line as well, almost like you're spanning train tracks. So from one position, you drop your weight, turn, and step out. That's a basic 90-degree turn. The second turn is a 180-degree turn around behind you. If I were to be in this position, to turn around behind me, I'm going to take my front leg and put it in a diagonal position this way. If I were facing this direction, my front leg comes like that. This is a basic 180-degree turn. Each of these turns is going to let you put your body weight into the blocking technique, either from the 90-degree turn or the 180-degree turn. Your body rotation is going to be put into the blocking technique. Now the third and final turn is the big turn. After each key up, you're going to turn to the side, but since your front leg is already forward, and since you want to put your body weight into the block, you're going to set for the block, and your back leg is going to come up and around, and you're basically going to back cut the 90-degree turn into the big 270-degree turn. That will happen twice in basic form number 1. In basic form number 1, you'll only need to know the down block. Down block is designed to protect you against an attack to your lower stomach or groin. Whichever leg is stepped forward in your stance, that side arm is the arm you'll be blocking with. The other hand will fill in the block to help cover yourself up and provide a counterweight to the technique, which will end up getting ready for the counterattack. We'll talk about that in just a second. But when you block, if this leg is forward, this hand will end up in the block, so it's going to start as far to the other side as possible. With your palm towards your ear, arm back wrapped as tightly as you can, this will let you put your body weight and your momentum and power into the technique. This hand is wrapped, ready to block. The other hand fills in the space as you step or turn, and then your hands work together. This hand comes back, not elbow out, but straight back, and the blocking hand stops on the outside of your body. If an attack is going to miss you on the outside, you don't have to worry about it. So beginners will try to block out as far as they have to touch the attack, but really, you just need to block what's going to hit you directly on. Now, after you've blocked, you've got a window of opportunity for a counterattack, and that is going to be the middle punch. Middle punch is not punching to the middle of everything that you can see. That's a beginner error, and that ends up being a throat punch. You can feel your rib cage ends at your xiphoid process, and your stomach starts getting soft right in the middle. That, on your imaginary opponent, is the point at which you're going to strike. When you punch in Tae Kwon Do, you want to strike with the first 2 knuckles. These knuckles should be in a straight line through your wrist to your elbow. And at the end of the punch, a straight line from your shoulder through your elbow and your wrist to the front 2 knuckles. Be careful when you punch that your wrist doesn't bend to the side or up or down. That can cause some problems when you put some power into the punch. 2 knuckles. And after the blocking technique, you've ended up palm up. You want to keep your palm up for the majority of the motion until the very end when everything snaps over. And breathe out. That is a middle punch. And those are the 2 techniques in basic form number 1. Combination A is a down block, aim, middle punch. Combination B, down block, aim, middle punch, middle punch, middle punch, key up. And that's it. Now let's go take a look at everything put together. This is basic form number 1. Basic form number 2 is very similar to basic form number 1 with 2 changes. The first change is in combination A. Instead of a middle punch, you'll be punching to the face. A face punch is not only the punch, but the aim before it. So combination A in basic form number 2 is low block, aim to the face, step, punch to the face. The second difference is the addition of an upper block. Just like lower block, upper block happens with the same arm as you have a leg forward in your stance. So if I'm stepped forward with this leg, this arm is going to be doing the blocking. Now, upper block is designed to protect you against an attack to your face or the upper part of your body. So you don't want to block around, but instead wipe up through your body to make sure that everything gets covered. At the end of the block, your palm will be out, your elbow in, so that you make sure you protect your entire head. A common error is to have your elbow open. I think it's easier to see outside of your peripheral vision and not get cluttered with your arm, but you're not protecting your entire head. So make sure that your forearm covers your head. And you want a little bit of an angle, like the roof of your house. That's upper block. And just like lower block, you're going to start in the opposite direction to get as much momentum and body weight into the technique as you can. That will put the power into the technique. So upper block starts down with the other hand filled in. The fill arm comes back to your side as this arm wipes up, palm towards you to the very last bit of the technique. Upper block. Upper block is going to happen in combination B in basic form number 2. So combination B in basic form number 2 is down block, upper block, upper block, upper block. Pro tip, when you're stepping in front stance, your weight is down and you should keep your knees together as you step. This is going to let you push up into the block. If you step up and down into your stance, your body weight is going the opposite direction of the block, and it's not quite as powerful. Down, stay down, block up into your power. And that is basic form number 2. Now let's take a look at what it looks like in its entirety. That brings us to basic form number 3. In this final form, we will be adding 1 new block and 2 new stances. The stances are back stance and center stance. If front stance is done on train tracks, then back stance and center stance are done on a balance beam. Center stance we also call riding horse stance. Your feet are out, your toes are turned in, your knees are flared out as much as you can. Most people have the tendency to stick their hips out as they squat down, and in center stance you want to roll your hips underneath you and keep as postured as you can in your stance. Everything should be squared up in one direction except for your punching hand and your head. The trick is turning your head without turning your shoulders. Your shoulders want to stay in the same line as your feet and your hips. When you step and advance for the next punch, the hand that you just punched with stays aiming in the direction of the new punch. Your hips want to twist back as much as they can during the step, so that at the end of the step you throw your hips out, pushing that next hand into the punch. That's a good center stance. Back stance is always going to happen with inside block, so let's talk about both of those. In back stance, you begin with your feet at 90-degree angles. Your front foot, your toes are straight forward in the direction you're facing, and your back foot is exactly to the left or the right. In that stance, you don't want to shift your weight over your front foot. It's not even centered, but definitely over your back leg. Sometimes we talk about 90% of your weight here, 10% of your weight here. Back stance is still, or can be, an aggressively forward stance, but your body mass is definitely shifted back away from your imaginary opponent. Now, each time you do back stance in basic form number 3, it's going to be with an inside block. This inside block is a middle block. So the lower block protected everything down here, the upper block protected your head, middle block protects everything in between. You're going to end up with your arm bent, kind of like you're arm wrestling. You're strong in the middle. Too close to you, you don't have a whole lot of leverage. Too far away, your effective blocking width is smaller and you don't have the leverage. But right in the middle, you can cover a lot of the block and be strong. So, as you step into back stance, that forward leg is going to be the blocking hand. The blocking hand, again with a tight fist, starts under your armpit. Your other hand aims in the direction of the block. And as you step, your hands are going to switch again. You lead with your elbow and snap your fist over at the end of the technique. The aiming hand comes back, ready again on your hip for the next punch. So the combinations for basic form number 3, combination A, back stance inside block, aim, front stance, middle punch. And combination B, down block, front stance, aim, center stance punch, 3 times in a row with a key up. Now let's take a look at everything put together. This is basic form number 3. And there you have it, everything you need to know to go practice the first 3 basic forms in Tae Kwon Do. But before you go, if I could ask you a favor, please give the video a like and a subscribe, share the video on your social media pages, and let's help get the word of martial arts out to the world. Okay, now it's time for you to go work hard. Practice until you are soaking wet. I'm Sensei Peter, and I'll see you on the mat soon.